Welcome back to BrainFuel Reads. This is Read It All, our new series for those who don't just want the highlights. They want the whole book experience. Page by page, chapter by chapter, we'll walk you through the book in detail, staying as close as possible to the author's words and intent. Think of it as reading the book, but in less time, and with the flow of an audio journey. Today, we're jumping into a book that goes beyond ancient philosophy. It's your guide to living a truly good life, right here and right now. The book is a guide to the good life, The Ancient Art of Stoic Joy by William B. Irvine. And the main takeaway? Happiness doesn't come from piling up stuff, chasing money, or impressing others. Instead, it's about mastering your mind, taming your desires, and finding real joy in living simply. The Stoics, those ancient philosophers from Greece and Rome, were not ivory tower thinkers. They were practical. They were warriors, emperors, slaves, statesmen. They lived through chaos, loss, and uncertainty, and yet they discovered a way to remain calm, resilient, and even joyful. And in this book, Irvine brilliantly illustrates how their timeless wisdom can reshape our lives today. So, let's kick off with the all-important question, what are we truly seeking? Introduction, the lost art of living well. Imagine you wake up tomorrow with everything you thought you wanted, money, success, recognition, comfort. For a moment, it feels like a dream come true. But then a peculiar thing happens, the thrill begins to fade. What once felt extraordinary becomes just ordinary. This is what psychologists call the hedonic treadmill. No matter how much we achieve or acquire, we quickly adapt to it. That shiny new car, just a car. That dream job, just more work. That once-a-vibrant relationship, if neglected, it can lose its spark. So if happiness isn't found in constant chasing, where is it found? The Stoics believed the answer was in tranquility. Not boredom or emotional numbness, but a profound sense of peace that shields us from being tossed around by our circumstances, desires, or others' opinions. William Irvine elevates Stoicism to the status of a practical philosophy of life, not just a set of beliefs, but a practical strategy, a way of approaching every day with tools that help you suffer less, enjoy more, and live intentionally. That's the journey this book invites us on. And part 1 lays the foundation. It asks us what we're really after, and it shows why Stoicism offers one of the most powerful answers: the pursuit of a philosophy of life. In our fast-paced world, many of us drift through life without a guiding philosophy. We chase goals society has set for us. We climb ladders without questioning where they lead. Then, one day, we might find ourselves wondering, is this all there too? The Stoics thought this was a dangerous way to live. It's like setting sail without a destination. If you don't choose a philosophy of life, one will be chosen for you, usually by advertisers, culture, or peer pressure. Irvine argues that Stoicism provides a tested philosophy of life. Its goal, to minimize unnecessary suffering while maximizing true fulfillment, not by eliminating challenges, but by changing how we respond to them. The first step is realizing that without a philosophy of life, we're prone to drift, and drifting rarely leads to genuine joy. Tranquility as the goal. So what is the Stoic vision of a good life? It's tranquility, a mind unshaken by chaos, desires, or fears. But here's the catch. Tranquility doesn't mean sitting on a mountaintop in silence, withdrawn from the world. For the Stoics, tranquility was active. It meant engaging fully with life, whether it's work, family, or community, while maintaining resilience. It's the feeling of walking through a storm and staying calm because you know the storm can't touch your inner peace. Seneca, one of the great Stoic thinkers, put it this way: a man is as unhappy as he has convinced himself he is. The Stoics believed suffering often comes not from events themselves, but from how we interpret them. Change your interpretation, and you change your experience. And when you live this way, something amazing happens. You become harder to provoke, harder to disappoint, harder to shake. You tap into a deep, steady joy. The problem of desire. Here's where the Stoics get practical. They understood that much of our misery comes from uncontrolled desire. Think about it. You buy something new, a phone, a car, a pair of shoes. Initially, you're thrilled, but soon enough, the excitement fades and you start yearning for the next shiny object. That's the hedonic treadmill in action. The Stoics saw this centuries ago. They warned that if you don't manage desire, desire will end up managing you. Instead of chasing more, practice the art of wanting less. Instead of craving what you don't have, learn to fully appreciate what you already possess. Epictetus, a former slave who became one of the greatest Stoic teachers, said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." Think about how liberating that is. If your happiness hinges on acquiring everything you want, you'll never be satisfied. But if your happiness depends on lowering your wants, on wanting what you already have, you can find contentment right now. This doesn't mean rejecting ambition, rather, it's about taking charge of your desires so they don't overpower you. The Stoic path versus other paths. Irvine points out that people throughout history have chosen different philosophies of life. Some pursue pleasure, like the Epicureans. Some chase virtue, like Aristotle. Some seek religious devotion. The Stoics, though, offered a unique blend. They pursued virtue, yes, but they also focused on resilience, tranquility, and joy. They didn't tell you to escape life's challenges. They told you to master them. And unlike philosophies that rely on abstract theory, Stoicism was built on practical exercises, mental tools you can use every single day to reframe setbacks, calm anger, and live with gratitude. That's why Stoicism isn't just ancient history. It's alive today, practiced by athletes, entrepreneurs, soldiers, and everyday people who want more resilience and joy. So, what do we seek? Not endless pleasure, not constant excitement, not the illusion of control. What we seek is tranquility, the deep contentment of knowing that even when life is chaotic, our inner world is steady. What we seek is freedom from the hedonic treadmill, freedom from desire running wild. What we seek is joy that isn't fragile, but strong. And Stoicism offers a roadmap to get there. But knowing what we seek is only the first step. The real question is, how do we train ourselves to live this way? That's where the Stoics shine. They developed powerful psychological techniques to tame desire, manage emotions, and build resilience. In the next part, we'll explore those techniques in depth, including one of the most powerful mental tools ever invented, negative visualization. So now we know what we're after. Not endless excitement, not a life of indulgence, but instead a sense of tranquility, a steady joy that can weather any storm. But let's be real for a second. How do you actually live that way? It's one thing to understand the philosophy. It's another to put it into practice when your car suddenly breaks down, your boss yells at you, or your plans just fall apart. This is where the Stoics were brilliant. They weren't just thinkers. They were trainers of the mind. They built tools and exercises, simple but powerful techniques you could use every single day to transform how you think, how you feel, and how you respond to life. And in part 2 of this book, Irvine walks us through these tools. Let's explore them together. Negative visualization, the power of loss. The first and perhaps most famous Stoic tool is negative visualization. I know, that sounds a bit odd, right? Why would anyone want to visualize something negative? Isn't that depressing? Here's the idea. The Stoics realized we often take so much for granted. We don't truly appreciate our health, our loved ones, or the opportunities we have until they're no longer there. So instead of waiting for that loss to hit us, they'd intentionally imagine it beforehand. They would pause and think, What if I lost this? What if that beloved person in my life wasn't here anymore? What if I didn't wake up tomorrow? And it's not about being morbid or wallowing in sadness. It's a way to really sharpen their gratitude for the present moment. Imagine this: if every time you hugged a loved one, you remembered they won't be around forever. Wouldn't that hug feel so much deeper, richer, and more alive? This isn't just Stoic theory. Modern psychology backs it up. Studies show that thinking about potential loss can really boost our appreciation. It jolts us out of autopilot and into a space of gratitude. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor and Stoic, wrote in his Meditations, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." The essence of negative visualization reminds us that life is fragile, and that fragility is what makes it more precious. So, the next time you catch yourself about to complain, pause and think, what if I didn't have this at all? Suddenly, what felt ordinary feels extraordinary. The dichotomy of control. Next, let's talk about one of the Stoics' most valuable ideas, the dichotomy of control. Others are not. The wisdom lies in knowing the difference. Think about it. You can't control the weather. You can't control traffic. You can't control other people's opinions. What you can control is your choices, your actions, your mindset. Epictetus, the slave-turned-philosopher, put it bluntly, some things are up to us and some are not. This sounds obvious, right? But how much of our stress comes from fighting battles we can't win? We get frustrated with traffic, obsess over other people's decision, or worry about future outcomes. All of it outside our sphere of control. The Stoics remind you to direct our energy where it matters, on what you can control. And here's the twist that Irvine highlights. The Stoics even suggested adding a third category, things we can influence but not fully control. Like winning a tennis match. We can train, prepare, and play well, but we can't control the final score. So what's the Stoic approach? Shift your focus from outcomes to effort. Instead of obsessing over winning the match, focus on playing your best game. Instead of stressing about whether your boss likes your work, invest your energy into doing work you're proud of. When you let go of the outcomes, you reclaim your inner peace. The dichotomy of control is freedom, because once you accept what's not up to you, the universe cannot rattle you. Voluntary discomfort. Now, here's a concept that might seem a bit radical. The Stoics practiced voluntary discomfort. Yes, that's right. They intentionally made their lives a bit harder at times. But why would they do that? To train resilience. Seneca would sleep on the floor, wear rough clothes, eat plain food, and ask himself, is this what I feared? By intentionally choosing discomfort in small doses, he discovered that the things we fear, like hunger, cold, poverty, often aren't as terrible as we imagine. Once you grasp that, it's like a light bulb goes off, and suddenly, fear no longer holds you captive. These days, we tend to shy away from discomfort. We crave comfort food, perfect climate control, and instant entertainment. But comfort breeds fragility. The more we indulge in life's little luxuries, the more we struggle with even minor inconveniences. The Stoics flipped the script. By practicing discomfort, they built real toughness. Now, I'm not saying you should live like a monk, but imagine if once a month you skipped a meal, or took a cold shower, or left your phone at home. You'd prove to yourself, I can handle this. And when life throws something tough your way, you will be ready. After spending a night on a hard floor, your cozy bed feels like pure heaven. And after fasting, even a simple meal tastes incredible. The Stoics discovered that sometimes the best way to appreciate what you have is to briefly go without it. Self-denial and training desire. Related to voluntary discomfort is self-denial, deliberately saying no to things you desire, even when you could indulge. Why bother? Because it helps you keep control. The Stoics believed that if you give in to every little whim, you become a slave to your desires. But practicing self-denial keeps you free. Musonius Rufus, a Roman Stoic, argued that practicing self-control with things like food, drink, and pleasure prepares you for bigger challenges. If you can resist dessert, you can definitely resist more troublesome temptations. Think of it like training a muscle. Every small act of self-denial strengthens your willpower. Modern research backs this up too. Studies on willpower show that tackling small tasks, like organizing your space or sticking to a budget, actually boosts your ability to resist temptations elsewhere. So next time you want to build some self-discipline, don't just shoot for the big wins. Start small. Skip that unnecessary purchase or say no to a second helping. Each of these choices is like a little workout for your willpower. Meditation on mortality. Now, let's talk about a technique the Stoics practice that might make some folks uncomfortable. Memento mori, remembering death. They didn't embrace this to be gloomy. They did it to sharpen life. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, you could leave life right now, while Seneca wrote letters about the shortness of life, urging readers to live as if each day were a gift. Why? Because remembering mortality does two things. One, it kills procrastination. Once you realize time is finite, you stop wasting it. Two, and it deepens gratitude. Every sunrise, every laugh, every moment spent with loved ones becomes so much more precious. We often live as if we have endless tomorrows. The Stoics remind us we don't. That realization might seem heavy, but instead it can energize you to truly live in the moment. When something bad happened, they asked, how can this be an opportunity? Lost your job? It's a chance to grow, to reinvent, to strengthen resilience. It's a moment to practice patience, gratitude, and faced rejection? That's your chance to build humility and perseverance. Epictetus often told his students, it's not what happens to you, but how you react that matters, and reframing is how you take control of that reaction. Instead of cursing the fate, you say, this is my training ground. This is my chance to practice virtue. Interesting, Irvine notes that modern cognitive behavioral therapy, one of the most effective forms of modern psychology, is built on the same principle. Change your interpretation, and you change your life. So let's wrap this up with a quick Stoic toolkit. Negative visualization. Imagine loss to feel more gratitude. The dichotomy of control. Focus only on what you can control. And voluntary discomfort. Practice resilience by embracing hardship. Self-denial. Strengthen your willpower by resisting. Memento mori. Remember death to live more fully. Reframing misfortune. View setbacks as chances to grow. These aren't abstract theories. They're daily practices. Mental push-ups. These tools can help you suffer less, appreciate more, and build unshakable resilience. And here's the best part. You don't need to master them all at once. Pick one. Try it today. Then add another. Bit by bit, you'll rewire your mind. The Stoics weren't superheroes. They were ordinary people who trained their minds. And if they could do it, so can you. Now that we've seen the techniques, what happens when you apply them to everyday life, to relationships, anger, fame, grief, luxury? That's what we'll explore in Part 3. Part 3, Stoic Advice. So far, we've explored the essence and methods of Stoicism. We know what we seek, tranquility, a steady joy not dependent on circumstances. And we have some solid techniques to help us get there. Negative visualization, the dichotomy of control, voluntary discomfort, and reframing setbacks. But philosophy only becomes meaningful when we actually live it. The Stoics weren't just sitting around thinking deep thoughts. They wanted their wisdom to impact their everyday lives, dealing with anger, processing grief, managing relationships, navigating fame, and handling money. They were curious about how philosophy could assist us when we're stuck in traffic, dealing with betrayal, tempted by luxury, or reeling from loss. In Part 3 of A Guide to the Good Life, William Irvine digs into the Stoic answers for these everyday challenges. Then in Part 4, he takes it a step further, asking how we can weave these timeless lessons into our fast-paced modern life filled with all distractions. Let's step into their advice on anger. Let's start with anger. Anger is one of the most destructive emotions. It clouds judgment, poisons relationships, and often hurts us more than the person we're upset with. Seneca wrote an entire book on anger and had a solid piece of advice. Anticipate it. Recognize that people will be rude, unfair, selfish. If you expect perfection, you'll always be disappointed. But if you expect human imperfection, you'll rarely be surprised. He put it succinctly. We are often more angry than the situation warrants, and this is because we don't expect to encounter vice. The Stoic strategy is simple. Instead of fuming when people fall short, remind yourself, of course they do. They're human, just like me. Next time you feel anger bubbling up, give yourself a moment. Seneca suggested counting, delaying, even walking away until reason returns, because once words are spoken in anger, they can't be recalled. Modern science also agrees with this notion. Pausing interrupts the emotional hijack. It really helps your prefrontal cortex, the rational brain, regains control over those intense emotions. So, the Stoic challenge is this. Next time you feel anger rising, don't feed it. Reframe it. View it as a chance to show self-control. Remember, tranquility is way more rewarding than the quick high that comes from letting anger fly. On grief and loss. What about grief? The Stoics didn't deny sorrow. They understood that loss hurts, and yes, tears will fall. Epictetus had a poignant reminder for his students. When you kiss your child goodnight, remember they are mortal. This isn't to love them less, but rather to love them more urgently, more deeply, because tomorrow isn't guaranteed. Marcus Aurelius, who lost many children in infancy, wrote to himself, "Do not act as if you were going to live 10,000 years. Death hangs over you. While you live, while it is in your power, be good." Grief, they said, should sharpen gratitude. Instead of drowning in why me, we can honor those we lost by living more fully. That said, being Stoic doesn't mean being unfeeling. Seneca wrote letters of comfort to friends who were mourning. He acknowledged pain, but he urged them not to let grief rob them of the time they still had. The Stoic lesson, mourn, but don't collapse. Grieve, but let grief be a reminder of how precious life is. On fame and luxury. Now let's talk about fame, wealth, and luxury, things that often feel like the ultimate goals in our culture. The Stoics saw these as traps. They knew fame is fickle, built on the opinions of strangers who barely know you. Seneca said, "What difference does it make how many are ignorant of your name?" Chasing fame, he warned, is like trying to catch the wind. You'll never feel secure because public opinion shifts with the breeze. And when it comes to luxury, the Stoics didn't reject pleasure. They enjoyed good meals, fine wine, comfortable living, but they refused to depend on those things for happiness. Musonius Rufus argued that luxury weakens character. If you need silk sheets to sleep, you've lost resilience. If you need delicacies to eat, you've lost gratitude. True freedom comes from being able to enjoy luxury without being enslaved by it. So, the Stoic practice is about moderation. Enjoy what life gives you, but don't cling to it tightly. Train yourself to find contentment in simplicity so that if wealth or luxuries slip away, you're still rich in spirit. On relationships. Stoicism isn't about solitude. It values community, family, friendship. But the Stoics approached relationships with a sense of wisdom. They knew you can't control how others act, only your response to them. As Epictetus wisely warned, if you tie your happiness to someone else's behavior, you're giving up your peace. In love and friendship, The Stoics advocated for deep connections without suffocating attachment. Love fully, but recognize that every person is independent and fallible. On insults and criticism. And what about those inevitable insults or criticisms? The Stoics laughed them off. Epictetus told his students, when someone insults you, just ask yourself, is it true? If it is, thank them for pointing it out. If it isn't, ignore it. Either way, why waste tranquility on someone else's harsh words? Marcus Aurelius reminded himself that people act based on their own perceptions, meaning their insults often say more about them than they do about you. Imagine how powerful that mindset is in today's world of online trolls and constant criticism. The Stoics would say, rise above it. Don't hand over your peace to the words of strangers. Part 4. Stoicism for Modern Life. So far, we've explored the timeless nature of Stoicism, but how do we bring it into our modern, hectic, consumer-driven world? This is where William Irvine shines. He argues that Stoicism isn't just ancient wisdom, it's a survival skill for today. Let's break it down. Stoicism in a world of consumerism. We live in a culture that thrives on dissatisfaction. Every ad seems to whisper, "You're not enough. Buy this to be happy." The Stoics would smile as they saw the game centuries ago. Their antidote? Gratitude and simplicity. Begin each day by appreciating what you have and try to limit your unnecessary desires. Embrace voluntary discomfort to remind yourself that you don't need luxury items to feel fulfilled. Imagine living free from the hamster wheel of consumerism. Imagine finding joy in a walk, in a conversation, in a sunrise, instead of endlessly scrolling for the next purchase. That's Stoicism in action, Stoicism in work and ambition. Now, let's talk about work. In today's hustle culture, ambition often leads to burnout. The Stoics didn't reject ambition. They simply redefined what success really means. For them, success isn't about accolades or wealth. It's about virtue. It's about living wisely, justly, courageously, and with self-control. Epictetus once advised, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. So yes, strive and work hard, but let your ambition nurture your character rather than feed your ego. Stoicism and Adversity. Life will inevitably throw curveballs. Illness, layoffs, breakups, setbacks. The Stoics prepared for these moments by embracing adversity as a form of training for the soul. As Seneca put it, fire tests gold, adversity tests the brave. Think of adversity not as a punishment, but as practice. Each challenge is an opportunity to apply Stoic principles, to focus on what you can control, accept what you cannot, and grow stronger. Each time you rise to the occasion. When life knocks you down, don't ask, why is this happening to me? Instead, ask, what can I learn from this? What qualities can I cultivate? Patience, courage, gratitude. That's the Stoic path, Stoicism in the age of distraction. Finally, let's talk about distraction. Today, our attention is pulled in 1,000 directions, from notifications to social media and endless noise. The Stoics would urge us to reclaim our focus. Marcus Aurelius once wrote, "You could leave life right now. Let that determine what you do and say and think." In other words, stop wasting time and start living intentionally. One practical step is setting aside time for reflection. Like Marcus, take a moment each night to write in a journal and ask yourself, what did I do well today? Where did I fall short? What can I do better tomorrow? Stoicism isn't about grand gestures, it's about daily practices and small mindful choices that lead to a life filled with tranquility and joy. Epilogue, the Stoic good life. So, what does the Stoic good life look like? It's not about luxury or fame, nor about completely avoiding pain. It's about living with a sense of tranquility, being resilient in the face of life's unpredictability, savoring life's moments without clinging too tightly, and loving others fully without the urge to possess them. It's about facing mortality without fear because you've lived with purpose. William Irvine calls Stoicism a path to true joy, not the shallow joy of fleeting pleasure, but the profound joy that comes from living well. Anyone can embark on this journey. You don't need wealth or status, nor do you have to relocate to ancient Rome. All you need is the courage to practice these principles, today, tomorrow, and every day after. Closing call to action. That brings us to the end of a guide to the good life, the ancient art of Stoic joy. Now, the question is, what will you do with it? Will you continue to drift through life, chasing comfort, possessions, and applause? Or will you choose the Stoic path, a life of resilience, gratitude, and joy? Remember, negative visualization sharpens gratitude. The dichotomy of control gives you freedom. An involuntary discomfort builds resilience, and self-denial strengthens willpower. Memento mori fuels urgency, and reframing turns setbacks into opportunities. If you start small, practice daily, and return to these principles when life gets hard, you'll discover what the Stoics discovered. Tranquility isn't somewhere out there. It's within you. If this journey resonated with you, don't forget to share your thoughts and subscribe to BrainFuel Reads. We're here to bring you the most thought-provoking books in an engaging audio format so you can fuel your mind and transform your life. Philosophy isn't just something to read about, it's something to live by. The good life is waiting for you to seize it.